Hello everyone, welcome to the lecture series on engineering geology. In this video, our topic of discussion is structural geology. From civil engineering point of view, structural geology is a very important branch of geology next to petrology. Petrology gives the details of textures, primary structures, and minerals of rocks which contribute to the original or inherent physical properties of rocks like strength, durability, color, appearance, and workability. On the other hand, structural geology gives the details about how these inherent properties get modified due to the presence of secondary structures, making them either suitable or unsuitable for civil engineering works. Structural geology is the study of factors such as the origin, occurrence, classification, types, and effects of various secondary structures like folds, faults, joints, and unconformities. All these structures are those which develop and occur in rock after their formation and are different from those primary structures such as bedding and vesicular structure which develop in rocks at the time of their formation itself. Firstly, we look at secondary structure folds. Folds are one of the most common geological structures found in rocks. When a set of horizontal layers of rocks are subjected to compressive forces, they bend either in upward or downwards. The bends noticed in rocks are called folds. They are also called flexures or buckling phenomena of rocks. Generally, they occur in series. Here, this is one fold, this is another fold, this is another fold. So, we can say that the folds are in series pattern. Now we come to parts of a fold. Limbs or flanks. These are the sides of a fold. There are two limbs for every fold and each limb common to the adjacent fold. Look at this figure. This is one fold, fold A. It has two limbs. This is one limb M. This is another limb N. This is fold B. It also has two limb. This is limb N and this is another limb. This limb N is common for both fold A and fold B. Crest and trough. The curved portion of the fold at the top and bottom are called crest and trough respectively. In general, these are smoothly bent, but in chevron folds these are sharp and angular, but geologists refer to crest and trough as hinges. In this figure, this is the top curved portion which is called crest, and this is the bottom curved portion which is called trough. Okay, generally they are smoothly bent, but for a special case or only in one case for chevron fold, these are sharp and angular. We will discuss later what is chevron fold. Some geologists call crest and trough as hinges. Axial plane. This is the imaginary plane which divides the fold into two equal halves or nearly equal halves. It passes through either the crest or the trough, that is in between the limbs. Okay, look at this figure here. This is the imaginary plane which is dividing this fold into two equal or nearly equal halves. Okay, that is called axial plane. It passes through either the crest or the trough. Okay, depending upon the nature of the fold, the axial plane may be vertical, horizontal, or inclined. In case of symmetrical folds, the axial plane divides the fold into exactly two equal halves. But in asymmetrical fields, the two halves will be only nearly equal. Like a batting plane, the axial plane also can be expressed by strike and dip. Okay, we can define the strike and dip of axial plane like a batting plane. Next is axis. This is the trace of the intersection between the axial plane and the crest or trough of the fold. Look at this figure. Here, this line is the axis of fold. Okay, this line is the trace of intersection between this axial plane and the crest of the fold. Okay, depending on the in similar way, this may be a trace of axial plane and trough of the fold. Depending on the nature of the fold, it may be inclined, horizontal, or vertical. As you can see in this figure, in this case, the axis of the fold is inclined. Okay, when it is inclined, the angle between the axis and the horizontal plane is called the plunge or pitch. Okay, this angle, we are talking about this angle. The angle between the axis and the horizontal plane is called plunge or pitch. Okay, wavelength, the distance between the successive crest or troughs is called wavelength. Here in this figure, this is the distance between the two successive trough and this is the distance between two successive crest. Okay, this length is called wavelength. Now let's see the classification and types of folds. Based on different principles, the folds are variously classified. Usually, folds are classified on the basis of symmetrical character, upward or downward bend, occurrence of plunge, uniformity of bed thickness, behavior of the fold pattern with depth, etc. So firstly we look at anticline and syncline folds. When the beds are bent upward in upward direction, the resulting fold is called anticline. This fold is convex upwards. Naturally, in such a fold, the older beds occur towards the concave side. Syncline is just opposite to anticline in its nature. When the beds are bent downwards, the resulting fold is called syncline. This fold is convex downward. In this, the younger beds occur towards the concave side. Next is symmetrical and asymmetrical folds. When the axial plane divides a fold into two equal halves in such a way that one half is the mirror image of another, then such a fold is called symmetrical fold. Okay, here in this figure you can see this axial plane is dividing this fold into two equal halves and this fold is just a mirror image of this fold. On the other hand, if the two halves are not mirror images, as in this case, then the fold is called as asymmetrical fold. If the compressive forces responsible for folding are not of the same magnitude, asymmetrical folds are formed. Plunging and non-plunging folds. The plunge of a fold that we have already seen, it is the inclination of the fold axis. It is the inclination of the fold axis with the horizontal plane. Okay. So based on the inclination of the axis of the fold, whether it is inclined or horizontal, we can group the fold as plunging folds or non-plunging folds. Okay, if the axis of the fold is inclined, then that is called plunging fold, and if the axis of the fold is horizontal, then it is called non-plunging. Since this is an anticline fold, that's why it is called non-plunging anticline, and this is plunging anticline. Open and closed folds. Depending on the intensity of deformation, the beds of the fold may or may not have uniform thickness. If the thickness of beds is uniform throughout the fold, it is called an open fold. On the other hand, in a fold, if the beds are thinner uh, in the limb portion and thicker at crest and troughs, such a fold is called closed fold. Similar and parallel folds. Based on whether the shape of folds remains the same or is altered with depth, folds are grouped as similar or parallel folds. In the case of similar folds, the shape or pattern of folds remain the same at depths also, but in case of parallel folds, the crest or trough become pointed or angular. Next is overturned fold. Usually in simple folds, the limbs show the order of superposition. Order of superposition means younger beds overlie older beds. Okay. But when one of the limb is overturned, as in this case, the order of superposition of beds in that limb will be in reverse order. Means in this case, the older beds overlie younger beds. Okay, here we can see the order of superposition is reversed. Okay, and in normal cases or in simple cases, the order of superposition was 1 2 3 4. Here in reverse case, this is 1 2 3 4. Okay, so such a fold is called an overturned fold. Chevron folds. Usually the crest and trough of beds are smoothly curved, but some folds have sharply bent, angular crests and troughs. Such folds are known as chevron folds. Isoclinal folds. Usually the folds have inclined limbs, that is, limbs will be mutually diverging or converging with reference to axial planes. But in some folds, the limbs will be mutually parallel to a great extent. Such folds are called isoclinal folds. These folds may be vertical, inclined, or horizontal. The horizontal isoclinal folds are called recumbent folds. The inclined and recumbent isoclinal folds are naturally overturned folds also. Next is domes and basins folds. Usually a fold will have two distinct limbs, but some folds do not have any such specific limbs and appear as beds locally pushed up or down. That is, their shapes appear as domes or basins. In a dome, which look like an upper hemisphere, the dips are found in all sides from the common central top point. Thus, this is a type of anticline. In the basin, which is like a bowl, the slopes are just opposite. That is, the dips are found towards a common central bottom point from all sides. This is a type of syncline. This is the top view of dome. This is a top view of basin. Monocline fold. Usually every fold has two limbs, each one of which is common to adjacent folds, but when bad when bats show a simple band with a similar attitude on either side of it, such a fold appears to have only one limb. This is called monocline. Anticlinoriums and synclinoriums. When the limbs of folds are not plain but characterized by the appearance of other minor folds on them, the major folds are called anticlinorium and synclinorium. Okay, this portion is anticlinorium and this is synclinoriums. Here limbs have the minor folds. Okay, and when these are plain, these limbs are plain, these are called anticline and syncline. Drag folds. These are the minor asymmetrical folds within the major folds, but these are confined only to incompetent or weak beds. Okay, these asymmetrical minor folds, as you can see here, these are called drag folds. Okay, these are limited to the incompetent bed or the weak bed, and these asymmetrical minor folds are sandwiched between competent or strong beds or formation. Okay, these drag folds are developed because of the shearing or dragging effect. When the stronger or competent beds slide past the weaker incompetent beds in opposite directions, these drag folds develop within the incompetent formations. In view of their mode of origin, the orientation of drag folds bear a definite relation with the major folds in which they occur. Thus, the study of drag folds uh, can reveal the attitude of major folds. Next is fan folds. Usually in simple anticlines, the limbs dip away from one another, and in simple synclines they dip towards each other. But in case of fan folds, this trend is just the opposite. That is, in anticlines of fan folds, the limb dip towards each other with reference to axial plane. In synclines of this kind, the limbs dip away from each other. Okay, as the term suggests, these folds are fan shaped. Now we come to causes of folding. Most of the important folds that we discussed a few minutes ago are due to tectonic causes, but a few folds of a minor type are due to non-tectonic causes. Mainly, the compressive and shear type of tectonic forces are responsible for the folding phenomena. I think we all are familiar with the tectonic forces and how they how they occur inside the earth. Igneous intrusions of viscous magmas such as laccoliths and lopoliths also contribute to folding. Okay, here in this figure you can see this magma inside the earth flowing through the cracks on the rock, and it is applying the pressure on the bed of rock, and due to this bed get bent, resulting in the formation of fold. This is another cause of folding. Non-tectonic causes like landslides, creeping, differential compaction, isostatic settling, and glaciation too are responsible for some folds. These are minor in terms of frequency of occurrence and magnitude. Okay. Now let's see the effects of folding. When a folded area is affected by weathering and erosion, interesting topographic features are produced. Immediately after folding, anticlines by virtue of their upward bending appear as hills, and synclines due to downward warping appear as valleys. During folding, in the crest portion, the geological formations are subjected to tension forces, and hence numerous fractures appear there. Because of these fractures, crest portions are eroded quickly, leading to conspicuous degradations locally. On the other hand, trough portions are highly compressed and hence offer a greater resistance to erosion. Thus, they stand out in the long run at a greater elevation while the adjacent parts degrade fast. The net result of this response to erosion is that the anticlines will change over to valleys while the syncline will change over to hills. Okay, here in this figure we can see these anticlines after weathering and erosion changed over to valley, and this syncline portion after weathering and erosion changed over to hills. This paradoxical phenomena is popularly expressed as anticlinal valleys and synclinal hills. The anticlinal valleys are typical examples of inliers, and synclinal hills are examples of outliers. Inliers, what is inliers and outliers? Inliers are the areas where the older formations are surrounded by younger formations. In the anticline fold, we know that at the bottom portion there will be older formation, and as we move in outward direction or upward direction, there will be younger formations. Okay, so after erosion in this valley, here older formation will be there and it is surrounded by younger formation. On the other hand, in the outlier, these are the areas where younger strata is surrounded by older strata. So this was all about folds. In the next video, we will go for detailed discussion on faults. Thank you.